What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Demetres. I'm a local real estate agent here in the city of Toronto, where I help clients buy and sell real estate and work their way to financial freedom. This video is probably the most requested one I've gotten in my Instagram DMs over the last couple of years, and that is, what do I need to know before I go buy a home? I'm going to go over everything from minimum down payment requirements, how much money you actually need to make to get a loan, and any closing costs that are associated with buying a house so you can be best prepared before you start your search out there. Of course, as always, before we get into the meat of the video, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, especially if you're liking the real estate content, and let's get into it. So easily the number one question I get asked by first-time home buyers who maybe have never bought a home before is, how much money do I need for a down payment? This is a very simple question that gets asked a lot, and I'm going to break it down for you guys. So right now in Canada, the minimum down payment requirement is 5% on the first $500,000. It is 10% on any amount over $500,000 to $1 million, and once you hit $1 million, it's minimum 20%. So let me break this down for you guys. Let's say, for instance, you're looking to buy a condo downtown Toronto for $500,000. You're going to need a minimum of $25,000, which is 5%. Let's say that you're looking for a condo that's $750,000. You're going to have to pay the same 5% on the first $500,000, which is $25,000, and then you're actually going to have to pay 10% on the amount from $500,000 to $750,000, which works out to another $25,000. So on a $750,000 property, you are looking at a minimum down payment requirement of $50,000. That being said, once you hit the $1 million mark, you are going to need a minimum of 20% on the entire purchase price, which is going to be $200,000 to acquire a loan. So depending on how much you plan on buying your next home for, the minimum down payment requirements do change, but those figures should give you a really good idea of how much you will need down before you start looking. And for those of you who are maybe looking to buy your second property or building up a real estate portfolio in the future, it's important to note that for any income properties, the bank will likely require you to put a minimum of 20% down. Another thing to note is that with any loan where you've put less than 20% down, the banks are going to require mortgage insurance. Now, this is why you might have heard people say, I want to put 20% down to avoid paying this mortgage insurance, and that's totally fine. It really depends on a case-by-case scenario on whether it's worth it for you to put less down or if it's worth it for you to save up more to avoid paying this mortgage insurance. Now, in a hot market like Toronto, what we're finding is that property values here are going up at such a drastic rate that for those people that are trying to wait to get that 20%, they are simply just not being able to keep up with the market. And as properties climb in value, so does your 20% down payment requirement. So for a lot of people, we're finding that it actually makes sense for them to get in with smaller down payments, still pay the mortgage insurance, and then when the time comes to sell that property, they've recovered enough equity and made enough of a profit that for the next property, they can go in with their 20% down and avoid mortgage insurance altogether. Keep in mind that mortgage insurance, depending on the price point that you're looking, it may only add $40 or $50 a month to your monthly payments, and it's worked into the mortgage. It doesn't need to be paid up front. But I would suggest that anybody who is looking to put less or maybe thinking that they need to save 20 to avoid this, to sit down with a professional, whether it be a real estate agent or a mortgage specialist, and really break down on whether it's worth it to save up that money or to just purchase a home with a smaller down payment. So now that we've gone over how much of a down payment you need to get into a property, let's go over how much income you actually need to have coming in to get approved. Disclaimer, I am not a mortgage broker. This is simply just a little rule of thumb that we use to kind of get an idea of what you could potentially qualify for. So for people who are looking to put less than 20% down and assuming that we have good credit and minimal debt, we can take our taxable income, times it by 4.5, and this will give us an approximate value of how much you could get for a loan. Keep in mind that this is your loan amount. Then you can take your down payment amount and add it to this for your total purchase price. So for anyone who's looking to put 20% down or more, you can actually take your taxable income and times it by 5.5 to give you that same rough figure, and then of course add your down payment, and that will give you your total figure for approximate purchase price. I cannot stress this enough though, guys. Those are just approximate figures. That is not your firm pre-approval. Your firm pre-approval is going to be dependent on a lot of factors such as debt, credit, the type of income you have coming in. So before you start seriously looking at anything online or especially in person, talk to a real estate agent, talk to a mortgage broker, and get those numbers firmed up so you got a really good idea of what you can go out there and buy. So now that we know how much we need as a down payment and we've got a rough idea of how much we could actually get as a loan, let's go over some closing costs. As a buyer, there are two main closing costs that we need to budget for, and those are land transfer tax and legal fees. There are a few others that are property specific, such as home inspections, which can run you about $500, movers, setting up utilities. But for the purpose of this, we're going to go over the two big ones, which, like I said, are land transfer tax and legal fees. Legal fees vary anywhere from about $1,500 to about $5,000 depending on purchase price. But if you're looking to buy under $1 million, you can budget safely anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. The big closing cost that everybody talks about is land transfer tax, and depending on what province you're in or what country you're in, this may or may not be applicable to you. But if you're buying in Ontario, you are subject to Ontario land transfer tax, and specifically if you're buying in Toronto, you get hit double with Toronto land transfer tax. Think of it as a luxury tax for living in our beautiful city. The formula for calculating land transfer tax is actually a percentage-based sliding scale based on purchase price. So to save yourself a little bit of a headache, and if you're not too handy with a calculator, I would suggest just go online, get an online calculator. There's plenty of them out there. Or you can reach out to me. I can give you some rough numbers. A $500,000 property here in Toronto, land transfer tax is going to cost you $12,950. Half of that is going to go towards Ontario land transfer tax, and the other half is going to go towards paying Toronto land transfer tax. If you plan on buying outside of Toronto, you're only on the hook for the Ontario portion, which at $500,000 would be $6,475. For you first-time homebuyers out there is a first-time homebuyers rebate that you may have heard of, and that will actually rebate you to a maximum of $8,475 on the land transfer tax. Now keep in mind that that rebate is split between Ontario land transfer tax and Toronto land transfer tax. So if you buy outside of Toronto and you only pay the Ontario land transfer tax, you only get half the rebate. So you'll get a savings of $4,000 rather than $8,475. Now to qualify for this first-time homebuyers rebate, it requires you to have never been on a property title ever in your life anywhere in the world. Even if you didn't buy the property but you were on title, it likely means that you do not qualify for the first-time homebuyers rebate anymore. And if you're buying with a partner where, say, one person's been on title, one person hasn't, you likely do qualify for half of the buyer's rebate. I would suggest go speak with your lawyer as these all depend on a case-by-case scenario. So to give you an example, if you do qualify for the first-time homebuyers rebate, and let's say you bought a $500,000 property in the city of Toronto, your land transfer tax would normally be $12,950 less the $8,475 rebate, which puts you at $4,475 plus lawyers and legal fees. Add another $1,500. We're looking at about $6,000 to $7,000 that you should budget for closing costs, just to give you a rough number. Obviously, higher purchase prices vary, but you can kind of calculate from there. If you are having trouble calculating how much potential closing costs, please reach out to me and I can help you out with that. One more thing that I'd like to add about closing costs before we wrap up this topic is that there's a misconception out there that as a buyer, you need to pay your real estate agent a commission. And generally speaking, any commissions that are paid out to real estate agents in a real estate transaction get paid from the seller, okay? This is important to note because as you're buying a property, one day if you plan on selling it, you are going to have to pay these real estate fees. And it's important to note as a buyer that you don't have to pay them, which actually makes the experience a lot of fun because we get to go shopping on the seller's dime and have a ton of fun. So now that we've got rough numbers for how much you need as a down payment, how much you might qualify for, and all your closing costs, you're thinking to yourself, hey, I'm in a good situation to buy, what do I do next? The first thing you should do is get connected with a trusted real estate professional. It is important that you go with someone you trust as they will likely be connecting you with multiple lenders, multiple lawyers to choose from, and they're really going to be quarterbacking the entire process for you. There's a lot of prep and documents that need to get in order to obtain a mortgage, and it's important that you do all this beforehand, because once you start looking, if you find the home of your dreams and you're not prepared to pull the trigger on it, some of these homes in Toronto can go very, very quickly, and being organized could be the difference between getting the home you want and missing out on it. I hope that helps give you an idea of how to get started. If you're looking for more information, or if you're maybe looking to start your own buying journey, go ahead, hit me up in my email below. There's also some links in the description where you can set an immediate appointment to have a one-on-one conversation with me. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.